I'm 21, so I don't have that much experience in like the dating game and everything like that. But I feel like in my generation and like moving forward, I don't think that's possible because it's like we have people that are like public figures. For example, like just to use an example, like Kim Kardashian, she's like 40 years old. And she's still dating. She was in a relationship for like she was married for like how long, and it's like outside of that, you know, her breaking up with her husband and everything, she's still like kind of moving on, still dating. I don't think 35 is, I think 35 is too young for you to say that you're left over. I feel like that's still a bit too young, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, what do you think?
I don't think I agree with the term leftover in general. And I also don't think you should put an age on what you would term as leftover. I think I think age is irrelevant. I think it's completely based on who you are, character, all the different other attributes aside from age. Like just to say because someone's a certain age, they're leftover women. I completely disagree. Completely disagree. That's my stance.
I agree.
You agree? Why?
Yeah, as a woman, I agree.
Why?
Because most women over 35 who are single have issues.
Okay.
I was 35 at one point and I had issues.
Like,
You know, they've got issues. I mean, you're 35. Either if you're a virgin, I can understand, right, then you're not left over. But if you're 35 and you've lived life and you've been through life, why should a man want you? I mean, everybody's looking at all these artists and all these stars. That's not reality. That's just one-off. But at 35, I had issues at 35, so I can understand that. If you're not married at 35 or in a stable relationship, has to be something wrong with you. Otherwise, why aren't you in a relationship if you're that great?
Go ahead. What do you guys think?
But in the video that we saw, he didn't say relationship per se. He said if you're not married. So would you say it's different if you're in a relationship? That
If you're good enough to be in a long-term relationship, you're good enough to get married. And if you're not, why ain't you?
not everybody aspires to marriage, though.
that's very true.
That's the problem.
I don't necessarily think it's a problem. I just think that it's a different. I think over the different generations, there's different views. For instance, a lot of the women and girls I speak to my age say they put off marriage and having children till they're in their 30s. So I think times have changed in terms of, for instance, myself, I would consider marriage in my 30s. Like, and if I got to 35 and I wasn't married, I wouldn't necessarily see it as a problem and that there's something wrong with me. Yeah, I think just assuming that there's something wrong with someone that's not married at 35 is just, I think it's oversimplifying everything. And I completely disagree again.
Wouldn't you say though? It's wouldn't you want to be married to if there was a guy that checked all your boxes? Would you not? Would you not want to marry him?
I mean, I feel like if it made sense, then yeah. I don't feel like people should. Well, firstly, I don't think people should rush into marriage. Firstly, like I feel like you should like kind of take time when it comes to that kind of stuff. But yeah, like if I found someone that literally ticks all my boxes and all of that stuff, 100% no.
So then, by that logic, wouldn't you say that the women that aren't picked by 35, like the best guys, picked the younger women and left everyone else over? Like in a way. Because if you survey men between the ages of 20 and 80 and you ask like what age do they find the most attractive, all of them find the ages between like 21 to 24 is like a girl's peak. And 90% of your eggs are gone by 30 and 50% of your options are gone by 30.
I wouldn't say you should say there's a peak time. I feel like when you're saying there's a peak time, you're basing it on looks primarily. I think there's so much more. Like you don't marry someone just based on looks, and between the ages of 21 to 24, that could be your peak, but you're finding yourself. So how can you say that? Okay, a man should pick a woman at that age, but she doesn't even know who she is yet. I feel like once you put an age on these things, that's where like divorce tends to come in. Divorce rates are so high, I think, because you're putting time pressure on it. I don't think there needs to be a time pressure. And sorry, going back to your point about if a guy ticked all my boxes now, again, I wouldn't say that I'm ready, because I feel like I'm still finding myself at the age of 21. You haven't experienced life. You haven't done a lot of things. And again, this is why I don't think age should be the fact, what we measure it by, because someone could be 35 and they haven't experienced life as much as someone who's 25, and that's a 10-year age gap, and they could have had completely different life experiences. So yeah, I think my problem is putting a time on it. So in terms of age, I think that's where the problem is.
So do you not think it starts with looks?
Yeah, I think it starts, but it will stop at a certain point. Like, it will not be long lasting if it's just based primarily on looks.
So a question, would you agree men do value fertility? Like, in general, men prefer younger women.
Yeah.
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 So what age do you think it's over? When would you qualify women as leftover? Because at some point, like, the guys aren't lining up for girls at 75, right? so at some point it ends, right? Where would you pinpoint that? And I'm curious for you. Why don't you guys all give your answers? Yeah. So when you start.
Okay. First of all, to be 21. But at 21, by the time you reach 35, what have you been doing? Like, say 20. We start our relationships, what did we say?
Speaking to the mic.
Oh, sorry, brother. Why did I have to be the first to do that? But yeah, so you start your relationships from like 16 to 35. All them years, what have you been doing? You've had ups, you've had downs. Going back to what you say, by then there's issues, there's trauma, there's, you've been through a lot. You've got certain guards up because you've been hurt in certain ways. You're seeing similar traits in partners that you saw in somebody else. That's why when I say at 35, if I see you at 35, I'll be able to recognize, okay, this has happened to you. That's happened to you. You've put this time frame on that. I don't want to do this until then. And at 35, what's that? Geriatric pregnancy. So it's high risk pregnancy. So for men, we have babies until the end of time. For you, from 35, it gets risky. It does. So you can say, if I'm single today, which I'm not, but if I was, I've got to go down the spectrum because I don't want that risk. Why am I going to have a risk? You're 35, you're going to have certain baggage because we all got baggage. So, but, by then it's other people's stuff that's coming into my relationship. And guess what? I don't want it. So by 35, you need to be more or less in your stride with someone. Even if it's not marriage, you shouldn't be on the market at 35. So I'm not saying you have to be married, but I'm saying you need to be clearly off the market. But what do you think?
I'm not too sure. Like, I wouldn't class people being that's over 35 as leftovers. I feel like that's a bit of a kind of rude term, but I feel like regardless of the age, you're still gonna go through shit like in life. You're always gonna go through stuff. Me personally, I would like, for me to be like in a stable relationship, which I don't feel like I'm ready for right now, I'd want to be like stable in myself, like mentally, like, and before I bring that to someone else, because like if I'm in a relationship with someone and it's now becoming and I come with all my baggage, that's going to cause issues in the relationship if I'm not secure. In terms of the age I would consider, I don't know. I don't really know, because then, like you said, people that are like 70 plus years old, no one's really, I mean, very few probably, but like, I don't know. And then at the same time as well, we did say like looks kind of,
you start with looks.
Yeah, you start with looks. There's people that are 35 that don't look 35.
There is that.
So
but once I know. Okay, just one quick question. Have you've been in a relationship before?
Yeah.
Yeah? And it's affected you? I'm not saying negative or positive. I'm just saying it's affected you. It's changed the course of why you've decided, I'm just finding me, I'm doing this. So 15 years of that. I find you in 15 years' time have gone through that. All right, let's say 3 or 4 times. That's nobody really wants what you're gonna come with, because you would have done it many times and you haven't figured it out. You haven't self-diagnosed yourself and found out what you need to do. So that's why I say at 35, it's different when you're young, you know, but if you keep, and I'm not saying this to you, we're just having a conversation, but just in general, if you keep doing the same thing and getting the same outcome, by the time we meet, I'm 40, you're 35, I'll be like,
What if it's just like bad luck?
4 times. And I'm saying 4 times because I'm being respectful. I'm saying 4 times because I'm being respectful.